Hello, welcome to this overnight taste challenge. It's dark, it's nighttime. Dawn has not broken yet, but maybe tomorrow we can get back to daunters when we get back to real time. And I saw there was a Yahoo, but can't necessarily try. But they had a report that the poll numbers for daylight savings time are low. Like people don't really like it. Now, some people do, and the impression is that people want it, but they said their numbers show that people really don't want it. They hate that time change back and forth. I certainly do. And I know Arizona and Hawaii do because they don't honor daylight savings time. They don't recognize it. They don't have to do any time changes in those two states. Anyway, I have two 40% alcohol gold rums. One is Caribbean inspired. The other one is from the Caribbean islands. Here is Kings Bay Tropical Island Style. See, they're very careful with that. Gold Caribbean inspired rum in this beautiful plastic bottle. Now, when I first saw these, they were in glass bottles and they had a different label, like a Captain Morgan pirate looking guy. But it was a pretty sorry looking label. And I guess even the company was like, man, that's such a bad play off of Captain Morgan. Let's make our own decent looking label. And which is what they did with this kind of nice looking Caribbean, it's like Caribbean wallpaper or something with tropical plants and a KB insignia, Kings Bay. Introduced in 1987, it's a rum with natural flavor, singular, not flavors, plural. This company is very specific about what they say on their labels. If it's got coloring added, they'll say with caramel coloring, or if it's flavors, plural, they'll say flavors, more than one. So to me, it tastes like they might be tweaking it with a little vanilla, but I don't know because they don't release the flavoring to keep that secret. Let me add that to the notes. With natural flavor. Another thing I noticed about Kings Bay is when I first started seeing it about 7 years ago, it said imported from the Caribbean. And then once the Glenmore distillery was opened, well, it was actually rebuilt. They tore down the old one and demolished it and built a brand new distillery since the old one was so dilapidated. Wasn't long after that, the labels changed to say Caribbean inspired rum because they distill rum at that distillery in Owensboro, Kentucky. And nothing says rum like Kentucky, right? Well, I don't know what barrels they age it in, but it's probably ex-bourbon barrels, considering the state and the parent company. Now, here's Ron Pontalba rum, introduced in 1989. It doesn't look like they ever changed the label. It looks like a 1989 Ocean Pacific t-shirt design. Not a bad design, actually. Simple, like they do now with stuff simple again. These labels, styles change. It was simple in the 90s. It was busy. Everything was busy. And then now it's back to maybe oversimplified with a lot of stuff. But if it'll focus, it says imported from the Caribbean islands. Which ones? We don't know. It's probably a blend of different rums from different islands, more than likely. Bottled by Wide World Importers, Frankfort, Kentucky. You say, I've never heard of that company. A lot of the Winn-Dixie, all the Winn-Dixie branded house liquors say Wide World Imports. And some of those also identify the parent company. And there you go. We love to hear from our customers, ! Sazerac.com. So there you go. Sazerac seems to be everywhere. I think this replaced two previous rums that they used to have called Old Superior Rum and Pontalba Rum. It was called Pontalba Rum. Then they went with the Spanish spelling, Ron Pontalba. I found old magazine ads for Old Superior and Ron Pontalba. And Pontalba is named after a very expensive apartment complex north and south of Jackson Square in the French Quarter, right by the cathedral. And those are very expensive apartments, and you can rent them. You got to get on a waiting list, and it's thousands of dollars a month. And a lot of actors or whatever stay there. They'll lease it, and when they're in town, executives and everything. Okay, but some people actually just live there, their whole life. They have a lot of money. But that was named after the woman who built those apartments, Michaela Almanasta de Pontalba. She was a Spanish minor noble. They call them grandees in Spain. And she married a man. She was born in, I don't think she was born in Spain. I think she was born in Spanish Louisiana because, Spain ruled Louisiana for 39 years. And most of the quote unquote French Quarter was built by the Spanish. So that hissed. Now you see when I get low, when my liquor starts to get low, it'll hiss. It builds up air pressure. When you pop the cap, it'll have a pressure release. It's got a nice cream colored cap, cream colored approach. This is a liter bottle. And I bought it at Ricky's liquor, famous liquor store in Kenner, Louisiana. Now this one's very dark. But I don't think they're adding any coloring because, like I said, Sazerac, they will tell you if they're adding coloring. They just put it on the label. Some companies don't want to talk about it. Okay, this one is very pale. Now look how pale that is. That is barely gold. That's what rum looks like when you age it a few months in some oak barrels and you don't add any coloring. It's very pale. Don't know the age on Pontalba. Ron Pontalba would seem like it's maybe a couple of years in the barrel, maybe 2 or 3 years in the barrels, because probably, like I say, a blend. So we'll have to close my eyes because as soon as I glance at that deep gold, I'm going to know what it is. But Michaela Almanasta de Pontalba, she married a man from France. He was a noble back when France had kings, and the last king of France was overthrown in 1848. A lot of people think it was Louis the 16th. He was overthrown also in the 1790s, but the royal family came back, regained power. They call it the Restoration. And then the last king was expelled in 1848. But she married this man, Pontalba, and they lived in Louisiana, and then he died. And she had a bunch of children. But they all moved to France. They didn't really want to stay here for whatever reason. So, and I guess their families live in France today. But she stayed, and she lived a long, long time, like I think till the 1870s, believe it or not. But she got involved in real estate since, the United States bought Louisiana and it became a state in 1812. So she had to adjust, right? She's no longer a noble in any real sense. So she got involved in real estate, a woman, okay? Talk about women's empowerment and all that. Okay, so she was involved in that in the 1800s. She bought all kind of property, and she built those apartments north and south of the Jackson Square in the middle of the French Quarter. And if you look at the grill work, because they have iron balcony, railings, you'll see people sitting up there on the balcony sometimes, whatever, eating or drinking or just looking at the scenery. But they've got AP, they've got a circle in the middle, and it's got cursive letters, capital AP, Almanasta Pontalba. Get it? Almanasta Pontalba. Still there after 150 something years, 160 years. Okay, Henry in Louisville says, I can't believe I'm up this early. Frankfurt is the capital and only 45-minute drive for me. I've been to Frankfurt twice, toured the Capitol, saw the monument to Harlan Sanders, Colonel Sanders. My daughter took a picture in front of it like she was crunching down on chicken. And I toured the Buffalo Trace Distillery. Fantastic tour. And it doesn't cost any money. Well, at least at that time it was free. Free samples, free piece of chocolate, liquor, whiskey filled chocolate. Really. Now people are saying you got to book it in advance because it's so packed with people. When I went there in 2017, it was packed with people, but I was able to get in. I said, I would like to take a tour. Oh, yes, they're about to start. She said, they got room. There's room. And so I did it. But if you show up with like 9 people in a crew and you're all on a big group trip, I don't think you're getting in. And there was like a nighttime tour, like distillery tour. And I didn't go to all that, but it was great, 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 great. Now they don't focus on the cheap stuff like this on the tour. Okay, they bottle a lot of cheap liquor there, and they make a lot of cheap whiskey there and everything. They probably do that at night. When you go on the tour, you seeing, oh, here we are making Buffalo Trace or Eagle Rare, you know. No, I mean, and there's a special room for Blanton's where they bottle Blanton's, and they showed where they had the vat where the Blanton's was in it, and they were bottling it, and we got to see. I even took videos on my channel. I took like 2 videos in that room. They put the labels on by hand, so that's great, 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 great. That's what they want you to see. So you know that makes sense. So, but like any liquor company around the world, they always have low end products that they, you know, you're not going to see that on their websites. I mean, the cheapest one they show on their website is Benchmark and Ancient Age. They do acknowledge those. Ancient Age, Benchmark, those are very low end bourbons, but they are straight bourbon. Straight. They're aged at least 3 years, both of them, but probably not a saga. It says 3 years on the label. And, you know, I've talked to distributors and they say big money is in that. They have to do low end stuff because there's a lot of people that's all they buy or can afford, but a lot of them could afford it. They just buy the cheapest liquor they could find. So they say that's where a bunch of the money is. Okay. They can't just depend on Blanton's and allocated, you know, Pappy Van Winkle and all that. There's money in it, of course. If there wasn't money in it, they wouldn't make it. But they said the low end it pulls in a lot of money, like Taka vodka. And people roll their eyes, oh, Taka, that stuff's the worst. Well, I don't know if it's the worst, but there's billboards all over Louisiana. Every major highway has Taka vodka billboards. That's all the time. So, and that pulls in a lot of cash. My lungs are still giving me a little trouble. Still got the little cough, you know, dry cough. Can't figure it out. But other people have been talking about that. I think it's something in the air, meaning some weird pollen, because a bunch of flowers bloom here in the fall. It's strange. But here's Kings Bay. They only make the big handles now, apparently. I got the 750. They call it a travel bottle because it's square and it's plastic. You can fit it in the suitcase. There's a little compartment in somebody's just to put that. And they just cut those. I bought it for $5.99. This regular $5.99. But look how cheap the big bottle is, $13.99. I think when I bought it, it was $12.99. This is like 4 years ago, but I said, nah, I think I have enough. And it says ingredients, molasses, no shock there, plus flavoring. They don't add that. And it's from the Sazerac Company. It tells you right there, the Sazerac Company Incorporated. So the founder's company is a shell name. It's not a real company. It's just the name of this, whatever they're doing. It looks to me like Wide World Importers handles, not Wide World. Yeah. No, both. The founder's company and Wide World Importers is a division of Sazerac that handles private label for the most part. So you can get the silver rum for $13.99. You pay $1 more and get Ron Rico, which is considered a bit higher grade. I don't know if it's any better. It doesn't say flavoring added, but it's from Beam, and Beam doesn't usually, they maybe don't tell you if they're adding flavoring. They're not as open about it, you know, the Suntory Global Spirits. I have a bottle of Ron Rico, regular bottle, you know, glass, and it's really good. And it's one of the old brands from 1860. No joke. Real story, not a made up date. Real. Used to be a big brand back in the 70s and 80s when Seagram's owned it, but then Seagram's, well, they lost interest in their liquor business, in fact. And they sold all of their liquor business, all their distilleries, all their bottling plants, all brands to whoever wanted to bid on it. And Beam got control of Ron Rico in 1994. but they never spent any money promoting it. You know, all those magazine ads abruptly stopped. No more sweepstakes. They used to have a thing in the magazine, sweepstakes, like Sports Illustrated, sweepstakes. Enter the Ron Rico Trans Am sweepstakes. So if you were the grand prize winner, you could win either a gold or silver Trans Am, Pontiac Trans Am, depending on which one you wanted. If you liked the Ron Rico gold, you could get the gold or the silver. So I said, well, that was a nice prize. But that's all over, you know, forget it. Liquor Enthusiast says, good morning, RJT. Yes, Ron Rico, 151. They might still make that. I haven't seen it. If I go to Winn-Dixie, soon to exit Louisiana, they've got Ron Rico silver, gold, and the spiced. But I don't recall the 151. But they do have some other 151 rums over there, which that's too much for me. I'm scared of that stuff. I don't need that in my life. Okay. But isn't that, trying to make sure I got it on the right setting. I don't like that yellowish setting. I like the bright white. Isn't that the kind of rum they use with the like creme brulee when they light it on fire and bring it to you? Because it'll ignite. It looks pretty at the restaurant, you know, when they do that, but to drink it, I've never had it, but it sounds grim to me. Like I couldn't handle it. I don't even like barrel proof whiskey. It's like, ooh. Okay, got it mixed up well. I have to use these glasses because I broke one of my favorite glasses, that Disaronno glass. I was being really careful with them too, but they're kind of thin, you know, and then one broke. I was so disheartened. So I've broken like 3 of them and I only have one left. So I can't do a pairing. But I got these. These are a little hardier. No, it's Diamore glasses. Diamore. That's a liqueur. And this is Disaronno, another liqueur. They're kind of similar. I think Diamore is made by Sazerac and Disaronno is made by a big company like Hennessy people. Okay. It's too complicated. It doesn't smell like much. Smell like spirits. You know what I mean? Like you can't really determine. It just smell like alcohol. And even less of an aroma. So I'm thinking the one that has aroma must be the Pontalba. I'm going to read your comments, y'all. I got to keep my eyes closed till I taste it. I've gotten it right twice and wrong once so far, I think. 2 and 1 because I got it confused yesterday in the morning. Or was it the afternoon? Well, one of the challenges, not yesterday, Thursday. It's got some sweetness to it, but it's mostly a dry rum, very dry. So you can't say, oh, it's so sugary sweet. Well, maybe with some rums, but not this one. You might complain it's too dry. So I can only get Kings Bay at Albertsons, all right? I've never seen it in any other store because it's an Albertsons brand. They own the trademark, so you're not going to see it anywhere else. Pontalba, I bought at Ricky's, famous Ricky's. I told you that earlier in the video on Louisiana Highway 49, southbound in Kenner, Louisiana. They're even open on Christmas Day. And I saw people lined up to the back of the store buying stuff on Christmas Day, getting their last liquor for their Christmas get together. True story. It was about 3 years ago. True and present danger. No, a real story. And that place is a legendary place. Yes, we do have liquor stores in Louisiana, but they're not called liquor stores, really. They're more like convenience store. Now, Ricky's Discount Liquor. Okay, it says Ricky's Discount Liquor. There's a place here called Cheap Liquor. But they kind of, I think they're registered as convenience stores technically, because I guess the taxes are different. If it's a convenience store that happens to sell liquor, which in this case, that's basically all they do. But they'll also have, you know, candy bars and snacks and milk and juice in the cooler and aspirin and things like that. This tastes like the King's Bay, which has a little more sweetness and it tastes lighter. So which one tastes better? Oh, I suppose it's about a tie. They're both good, probably in the B range. You wouldn't go higher than a B, but they fine. So can you get a good rum for such a cheap price like I paid? Well, obviously yes, because I'm tasting them and they're good, in my opinion. You know, understand? You know, our opinions work, but some people don't. But they should know. But anyway, I think this is the Pontalba, Ron Pontalba, which I've never seen anywhere in this town. But on the other hand, we only have 28,000 people. Kenner has like 70,000. So they're going to obviously have a lot bigger selection. And then you go to Metairie, which is over 150,000, I think. Then the selection would be even more. Then you go into New Orleans at some of their stores. Now you're looking at over 300,000 people. And then you have a much wider selection, which makes perfect sense. If you go to Reserve, Louisiana, with only 4,000 people, well, what, 4 or 5,000? You have just a very paltry selection of liquor. It's there. There's no restriction on it, but they don't bring much in on the shelves because it's not going to move. Have a better than you would expect craft beer selection over there, though. Nothing, amazing, but it's suitable for a small town like that. Okay, that's it. That's self-explanatory. We all know how that works. All right. Yes, some small towns will have a lot of liquor because they're on like a state line across from a restrictive state. Okay, Pontalba. Got it. I don't even have to look at the label. I know it's Pontalba. Look how dark. Was painful to watch Texas San Antonio blow out the Greenway. Oh, I fell asleep actually because I had woken up so early that morning. So then it just hit me. I laid down. I said, let me lay down and watch this game. And I laid down. I was like, oh, here. And I was out like that fast. But then my eyes opened because television always wakes me up. And I thought I was dreaming. I said, am I seeing this right? What was it, like 41-10 at one point? And I said, oh, all my dreams are destroyed. I thought the team was going to stay in first place and go to the championship game and maybe make it to the college playoff. I mean, obviously they're not going to win it, but just to be in it, I mean, I was glad they just made it to the Cotton Bowl a few years ago. Oh, but they won that, didn't they? Beat Southern California. Amazing. My friend Tom said, I never thought I'd live to see that. He's been going to Tulane games since 1954. And 53, his first game. And he said, I never thought I'd live to see that. But, that just was crushing defeat. Yes, it lights, laughing out loud, that invisible flame. It's like a blue flame, isn't it? Kind of. Invisible too, also, but kind of bluish. But yeah, it's pretty, when you're at the restaurant. I was even thinking about driving to Philadelphia this month to go see Tulane play at Temple, to go to the Philadelphia Eagles Stadium, because Temple plays at the Eagles Stadium. They don't have their own stadium anymore. They tore it down. It was old, rundown. But now I just like, do I really want to drive all the way there and go sit there and watch them in the cold, which I'm sure it'd be cold and miserable, and watch them get killed? Because Temple's good this year. And bluish at times. And I just thought I was looking at a team with no kind of life in them. And they had been playing kind of raggedy the whole year. Let's be honest. They were 6-1. They lost to Mississippi, but everybody else has been losing Mississippi as well. But even the newspaper said they just keep playing bad. Maybe tonight against UTSA will get it together. And of course they did not. So that's the way the ball bounces, right? That's just tough. So I don't know if I'm motivated to go now. I got so down about it. I'd like to go to Philadelphia again. I'd like to go to that stadium. That's not crucial. It's not that important. Temple Owls. The first Sugar Bowl was in 1935, January 1st, 1935, and it was Tulane University versus Temple University. Tulane won. I think it was a pretty close game, but that was when Tulane Stadium was very small. It was only like 25,000 people, but then they had such a good crowd, and then the next year, the Sugar Bowl looked it was really taking off. So they said, well, let's add to the stadium. So they added on to it, and it was just a metal stadium. And then it was like 35,000 people, and then a couple of years later they added it, and it was like 45,000. And then by the time the last big game was held there in 1975, Super Bowl IX, the Pittsburgh Steelers' first victory and the first NFL championship actually in their history. The team was so renowned for being terrible, but they finally won the Super Bowl. A team that was always in last place. That was the beginning of their big dynasty. But that was held at Tulane Stadium, and it was over 80,000 by that time. 80,000. They had games there where they had 86,000 people, so it was huge, huge, and all metal, like the Cotton Bowl in Dallas and the Orange Bowl in Miami. I guess there was some company that was building those stadiums with all this steel, and they put a nice facade around it, I guess, and all the cities contracted with them. But the problem that those things would rust out. So by the time the Super Bowl was held, the stadium was like really rusted out, and I only went to one game there in my life. And so they the day after the Super Bowl, they condemned the stadium and said it's over. And it was demolished in 1980. And well, it was replaced with the world famous Superdome, a much nicer place, right? And I went to the Superdome the month it opened, August 1975. My mother brought me to the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus, first event held at that Superdome. And we were just amazed. Everybody was amazed, like, oh, that it was better than the eighth wonder of the world, the Astrodome blew up. It made the Astrodome look sad. And now the Astrodome is abandoned. I did go to a game at the Astrodome one time, not a baseball game, a college bowl game, Texas A&M versus. I was wearing Tulane stuff, and then people were looking at me like, "What is this guy doing here wearing this?" And I didn't care. But I think it was Texas A&M and Navy. I think Navy had a good season that year or something. I don't know. It was the first year they opened that place, Reliance Stadium, and I was there. I didn't pay much for the ticket, and I didn't pay to park. It's nice, I like it, but it's not the Superdome, no way. And it's a lot newer. The Superdome has upholstered seats. Every seat in that stadium is upholstered, cushioned like this. Every seat. You go to all these other ones, you go in the upper deck, it's all plastic, hard seats, no upholstery. Is there another domed big stadium that every seat is upholstered? I'm not aware of that. Superdome is. I toured the University of Pennsylvania 2 years ago with my daughter, says Henry, and never knew that Temple was so close. And Drexel is literally right across the street from University of Pennsylvania. Oh, Drexel University. So the winner there is no winner. The winner is like I tell them apart. But I would buy, honestly, whatever one was cheaper, I'd buy it. Now, somebody told me that Pontalba is really common in Texas. And when I went to Texas, at the liquor stores I visited, they all had Pontalba rum. Silver, gold, spice, I think 151. Yeah, definitely 151. So maybe that's where they focus on Texas with it. We get some inexpensive Sazerac rums here, but it's different brands. University of Pennsylvania, they have a stadium called Franklin Field. It's like 55,000 seats. It's very old. And that's where the Philadelphia Eagles played for decades. They didn't have their own stadium. They played at Franklin Field. And there's a lot of beautiful photos you can see on the internet, color photos of that stadium and the game action, like the 1960 NFL championship and against the Packers, Green Bay's, and the Eagles won that game. It was a really hard fought game, but they won that championship at Franklin Field. And they stayed at that stadium until what, 1971 when they opened Veterans Stadium. Yeah, I'm pretty sure 71 was the first season at the modern stadium, which people kept complaining about, which I thought was unfair. I went to a game at Veterans Stadium in 2003, and I didn't see a problem with it, honestly. But Franklin Field, I'd love to go to a game there. Some kind of, that's a fantastic historical stadium. I didn't say it was a fantastic stadium. I'm sure it's all bleachers and it's probably not that comfortable, but it's the historical facts are fantastic. And there used to be JFK Stadium, which was one of those, like I say, a Rector Stadium, like Tulane, all metal, and they tore it down a few years ago. But they had Live Aid there. You remember Live Aid, 1985? The U.S. part of it was at JFK Stadium. I don't know what the original name of it was. You know, they named it JFK, obviously, after 1963. But just like RFK Stadium in Washington was renamed after 68, you know, but it was originally called just Washington District of Columbia Municipal Stadium. I think it was a name like that. It rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Washington, D.C. Municipal Stadium. So that's enough. Good product. Not amazing, but both of them are good. Not amazing, but good. You know, fine, enjoyable. Okay. Next time, I think I don't remember, but I think I have one or two more Sazerac products, maybe more because I have another shelf, and I think I have that Classic Club or whatever that you see at Total Wine a lot, although I don't think they own the brand. They don't own the brand, but they just put it there a lot. But then I'll go on to some other things, and it'll be all even. Like all these lower end, they'll be even. Even, well, when you get a little notch higher, like Ronrico and Castillo, yeah, it won't compete against those. And you know, it definitely ain't going to compete against Bacardi. And I have Bacardi 8-year and Bacardi 10-year Grand Reserve. Well, I mean, would be no hope to compete against that. Or the Myerses, or that Cruzan Blackstrap Estate Diamond. I mean, it won't even be they're both dark, but that thing is black, and it's black like molasses, the darkest molasses you can buy, Blackstrap. And yeah, that'll be interesting in a perverted sort of way. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not proper. Like a Blackstrap molasses rum versus a gold rum is the chances of getting it confused are impossible. There is no chance. It cannot happen. It will not happen. So then it will be on to silver tequila or clear tequila, whatever people call it, Blanco. Yeah, it's a cheap one, but I have some other nicer ones. I mean, I have some tequilas that run $50, $60 a bottle, but I just haven't broken them open yet. They're just sitting on the shelf. I have some really good high grade tequilas. I'm trying to get rid of all the lesser lights at the moment. I'd like to go through all of those cheapos, and then we'll go to a much better grade. And you'll see if you got the patience. I've got to go to a funeral in Chattanooga today. I wonder if they sell Schlitz down there. I don't know. They might. Every time they stock Schlitz at my local store, it sells out in 2 days. Because there's a few guys here. It's all men. They buy Schlitz. They remember the 70s and all of this. You know, they're all in their 60s and 70s, right? So they remember being young, drinking Schlitz. Okay. So when it comes in stock, they buy it all. Then it's empty. The shelf's empty right now. But then they'll bring more in. Crescent Crown will put a bunch more on the shelf, and it's gone in 2 days because they'd be looking for it. I remember there used to be an old man that came in that store. He was old, like in his 80s, I think, maybe 70s, but he was pretty old. He would always look for Ice House Edge. They still make that, but they don't sell it in Louisiana anymore. He would always get 4 packs of Ice House Edge. It was very inexpensive then. But I guess he passed away. I hadn't seen that man in that store for years. Because you kind of see regular people in stores, when you go to various stores, always the same people shopping. But he always bought that. Then he passed away, I imagine, and they stopped selling it because he was the only one that ever bought it. So when he stopped coming to the store, that store stopped selling it. And I think it's 2 guys actually. If these 2 guys stop buying Schlitz, then Schlitz ain't gonna sell. Because I've talked to young people in their 20s, and I say, "You ever tried Schlitz?" And they'll always say the same thing: "What is that? What is that?" And I show it to them. I said, "This beer." "Oh, I never heard of that." So that shows you people's attachment to Schlitz today. Anyone under 50 years old ain't gonna know what's that? I never heard of that. They never heard of Carling Black Label. I never heard of that until I heard about it later. I had no experience with that product. My father did back in the early 1960s. They would buy it. I said, "Why did y'all buy Carling Black Label?" He said, "Because it was the cheapest beer we could get." Makes sense. They were young. So, good product. I can't find anything wrong with it. Are they adding a little vanilla to it? That's my suspicion. Doesn't hurt it. Probably helps it. Pontalba, yeah. Are people buying these to sip neat at room temperature? They're not. They're buying it for one reason only. At the minimum, ice cubes. Look at that old Schlitz. That's an old label back there. See that the cream colored one where I'm pointing? They don't have that anymore, but that's the old one. But it's for cocktails. And I mean, we talking about cocktails like Hawaiian punch with rum. That's the level of cocktails they're doing. I'm not knocking that. Or Coke, rum, and of course, rum and Coca-Cola, but it's probably more like rum and Great Value Cola, or whatever Albertsons private label cola is. And they have it. I don't know what it's called. I think it's called like Stars or something, like Patriotic Star. It's something like that. It's really kind of embarrassing, but it's there. People buy it because it's the cheapest stuff in the store. So that's the level we're talking about. All right, no knock on that. All right, so thank you for tolerating the video, the length, and I'll try to come back tomorrow, if possible, and do another gold rum taste challenge. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.